For me, and for many people around the world, this is now one of the defining environmental struggles of our time. It's a fight for sanity against the madness that sees the disappearance of the Arctic ice, not as a warning, but as an opportunity to seek further profits.
When you recruit somebody who has a history of not behaving ethically, a history of lying, a history of stealing, a history of being caught out in corrupt deals, you place that person in a position of authority. What do you expect? Because they're more likely to continue in that crooked way. But worse, if anybody tries to stand in their way, they may then try to remove that person from their position, as we've seen with state capture.
We have become quite obsessional about competition in our culture, our modern culture. We set high store by success. The most awful thing to happen to anybody is to fail. And so we worship in the temple of cutthroat competition. We must succeed. And so what do? Some cook the books because the pressure is so great, so that stomach ulcers become status symbols. We have seen to ask, is it profitable? Or is saying we actually ought to have been asking, is it right?
Is a real possibility if we review our decision and accept the decision of your heart as our sin, we will like the Lord. And that has victory over the Lord next. When we remain as a sin, even more significant. And the world conflict that the world was behind us. And then was thrown to the field, fully motivated, knowing that they would bring glory to South Africa.
so much towards racial reconciliation in this country.
By proclaiming the message of one king, one country, one being in South Africa, once a symbol of division and exclusion, had been gained across the threshold to a new era of a united and reconciled nation.
I get goosebumps to this day when I think about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, small acts of heroism. So when you think about fearless leaders, we're thinking about you and I. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to another IPM conference. This year, unlike others, requires of you to be different. It requires of you to search inside for a kind of courage that perhaps not gone to before. We are saying that leadership is a choice. It is not a position. Leadership is not for the faint-hearted. Fearless leadership is not for the faint-hearted. It is not for those who will take the safe road. It is not for those that does not question. It is not for those who are not curious, courageous, and brave. Earlier on, we heard Professor Zinn talking about the fact that as HR professionals, you can no longer stand on the sideline and be bullied because another agenda is at play. Ladies and gentlemen, when we come to a conference of this nature, year on year, listening to all of the great wisdom that we have a multitude of books written about, we go out with a sense of excitement. Wow, there was a great conference. And then we take all of those wonderful literature and we put it into our top drawer and we go back to business as usual. We go back to business as usual. As we look around us, our institutions are changing. There's corporate greed, all of us, amongst all of us. Indeed, leadership greed. Profits at any cost, an unknown that is coming at us, thick and fast. I ask you, with tears in my eyes, will you be prepared to stand against institutions of greed, biasness? Stand up for your own integrity so that you do not compromise who you are. And yes, I know that perhaps you may be thinking, but my job is on the line. And yes, we do have that to fulfill. We have a physical need. We have the house to pay, the car to pay, the school, the kids to send to school. At what cost? Look around you. Project yourself 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. What will this country, your organization, your home, your children, you, look like if we succumb to the kind of changes that's going on around you? The world is changing, and often as we think about what is going on, we come to learn that there is a game at play. Many organizations are not quite sure what game they're playing. You see, there is the finite game and the infinite game. The finite game is marred by set of rules, by known players, by set objectives. It is about a win for one. It is about individualism. There's nothing wrong with the finite game. The world that we are moving into requires participation in an infinite game. An infinite game is a game that you play for perpetuation. It is about staying in the game. Whilst a finite game has a definite winner and a loser, an infinite game is about playing together for more, for bigger. It is with plays that are both known and unknown. It is both flexible and changeable. It perpetuates. It is an understanding that danger is real. there's a very real chance that your business can close tomorrow. But fear is not. Danger is not in your control. Fear is. In the game of playing an infinite game requires you to move away from the command and controlling style into an inspire and release. Commanding and controlling is old. It's irrelevant. It is no longer have a place in our world. There is a requirement for us to embrace a new kind of leader. A fearless leader comes with a very defined DNA. They have a near-perfect balance of character and competence. They are very, very clear on who they are. Will not allow for their integrity to be compromised at any cost. They are vulnerable. They know that people follow humans. They do not follow flawless icons. And it's all right. This type of leader knows that he does not have to be the brightest mind in the room. They also know that if they do have that mindset of being the cleverest person in the room, they are in the wrong room. This leader unleashes potential, grow others. The DNA of this person also is very clear on all the things they do, what they do, the actions they take. They look at the development of others. They look at how do we expand skill sets. They look at what results are we getting at. And results may not necessarily be translated into financial terms, but what is that legacy that we have left? What will I be known for? And finally, the DNA of this fearless leader comes down to a critical piece around how they think. How they think when they look at you and I. They engage people as whole people, recognizing that in order for you to have people volunteer their finest efforts towards the highest priority of an organization, you need to engage them as whole people. They're also those people that know that they have to surround themselves with a multiple of skill sets. They know that they are not the primary owner of all of the skill sets and competencies that are required to get a specific result. This leader surrounds themselves with others that are different to them, that come with a different set of skill set. You see, when we think about leadership, when we think about what is it that drives us, as human beings, we all have a set of bias. So let me say it differently. If you are not biased, then you are not human. Being biased is inherently human. So when you have a leader that engages with that which looks like him, looks the same, feels the same, speaks the same, we're saying, how then do we move from that? How do we move away from an inherent bias. So listen, the reality is that our brain is wired to react. Yeah? Our brain is wired to react. So whenever we experience something that's different, that's unlike us, there's a little thing in your brain called the amygdala. It is all your emotional processing goes there. It sends a message to your hypothalamus. This is your communication center. It tells the hypothalamus, oh, you need to be really, really scared. Run away, do something. I cannot trust this person. And in that moment, when we do that, we are making decisions about the person in front of us in that moment. And the brain does that because it needs to create shortcuts. Remember that at any given point in time, our brain has 11 million bits of information coming at it all the time. We can only process 40 of those. We can only process 40. So what does the brain do? We create heuristics. A heuristic is a shortcut. It is defined by a set of categories based on our experience, based on our prejudgments. And so it's not a bad thing to have heuristics. It helps us. It helps us human beings to make decisions as opposed to spending lots of energy and time on a particular aspect we can get through quickly by using our heuristics. However, the danger is that these heuristics gets us into what we call a cognitive trap, a cognitive bias. And there is where the problem is. It's because often it is inaccurate. It stifles learning. It stifles organizations. And all good policies go out the window because there is a human that administers these processes, these policies. And so when you're thinking about how do we change and we continually do the same thing, we are continually reacting based on our bias. So ladies and gentlemen, the number one contributor to homogeneous work environments, sameness thinking, a disabler of diversity, inclusion, and belonging, the enemy of innovation and engagement, is unconscious bias. We know very many organizations that are filled with echo chambers. Why? Because I have to go up to my boss and tell him how brilliant he is and agree with everything that he says because I'm too scared to confront that. Yeah? So we have an organization, we have echo chambers. It takes a very special kind of leader to recognize that in order to grow, in order to be the best that we can be, there is a requirement that we need to engage different minds, different thinking opportunities. It's a leader that is not afraid to be vulnerable. It is a leader who is not afraid to admit his shortcomings. When we think about all of the organizations and all of the work that gets done around diversity and inclusion, some of the greatest research is telling us that in organizations that have the top 25% on gender and racial diversity are more likely to outperform in relation to their peers. The bottom 25% underperform. So there is a business case as to why becoming aware of your bias is critical as we aim to grow our businesses, as we aim to interact more meaningfully with each other at every level in the organization. We require a completely new skill set, a skill set that makes us aware of the bias that we walk around with. Understanding our bias is probably the very first thing that we need to do. Being aware of it, identifying it. Because, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot sit here and say, I am not biased. You are, as am I. The awareness thereof is what helps us transition and make a difference in the space that we're in. How do we do that? How do we move into this space of recognizing our unconscious bias? When you think about how you operate in the organization, if you make people feel valued, included, appreciated, you really are operating in the high performance zone. When we're in this space where we kind of just tolerate, ignore, we are moving more closer towards the limiting zone, limiting people's potential. And heaven forbid that you're in the space of the damaging zone where you are speaking about abuse, using derogatory terms, just sidelining people. That's the damaging zone. How often do you know of individuals that are marginalized in your organization? That time after time, they get looked over for promotion. That regardless of how hard they work, there are certain things, they are not the right religion, not the right gender, not the right ethnicity, not the right color, not the right education level, did not get my MBA from that institution, I did not get... Listen, I have that in my organization. When we hire, we look to hire people with a minimum of an honors degree. That is a bias. And as I've been going through this content, I realized, geez, I didn't realize that I may be marginalizing great individuals that do great work and have had 30 years experience, but they may not have an honors degree. And I took a step back, because as I went through this, I realized that I need to be able to identify my bias. And part of this process of the unconscious is a recognition that we are, and we cannot say, well, so what? It makes me human. We say, do something about it. Here's a model that we can use. There are 3 pieces to this model. The very first one is identifying your bias. It is based on the principle of self-awareness. The next piece is cultivating connection. It is based on the principle of openness. And the last one, choosing courage. based on the principle of growth. What are the frameworks, your frame of mind, as you move inside of this? So when you are at the very first one, identifying your bias, your immediate frame of reference is, I am not biased, I view things objectively. Moving away to identify is, bias exists in everyone, including me. I actively think about how bias is at play in the choices I make every day. Are we prepared to do that? Don't answer me. Think about it. The second piece, cultivating connection based on the principle of openness. What is it that we want to reframe? Moving away from, if I understand my bias, I can fix them on my own. It's not about fixing them, ladies and gentlemen. It's about reframing this idea of how do I connect and learn your story. It is only when I cultivate meaningful connections can I see past bias and value the people around me. Here's what I'd like for you to do. Do you all have some paper? Some paper. I'd like for you to list 10 people from your professional network that you choose to interact with. Just list them. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to do that. List 10 people from your professional network that you choose to interact with. These are the people you most frequently connect with, not who you think you should connect with. The people you most frequently connect with. Just make the list. We done? People that you most frequently interact with. Professional network. Are we good? Show of hands. You good? Still busy? Okay, here's what I'd like you to do. As you think about that list that you have, I'd like for you to answer some of this. Who do you go for professional advice? Who comes to you? Who do you go to for your mentoring or coaching, or who comes to you? Who would you go to for help, for a project or a intervention or whatever? I'd like for you to tick them against these kind of criteria. Are they in the same age group or different to you? Same color or different to you? Same education level or different to you? Same expertise or different to you? And so on and so forth. Family status, gender, national origin, personality, physical abilities, physical appearance, political views, race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status. A quick check. My guess is that most of you take to sing. My guess is that most of you take to sing. Sameness. And it's our safety net. It helps us feel safe in relationships that we know, people that look the same, feel the same. It's the old adage, you just like me. You are just like me translates into I like you. I will therefore do business with you because I like you. That's the reality of the landscape within which we find ourselves. So if we want to be fearless, if we want to transform, let's look again. Perhaps with a microscope, if needs be. When we think about the last piece, choose courage. It is built on the principle of growth. Growth for the many. It moves from the mindset of if I confront bias, it will just create more division. You kind of avoid the subject like the plague. Versus when I effectively confront bias, I create a space where we are all valued and are able to contribute our best. We should be going towards creating an environment where people can say, earnestly, compellingly, with absolute confidence, I feel like a valued member of a winning team doing meaningful work in an environment of trust. Can we say that? As leaders in this organization, in our various organizations, can your people say that? Can your people say, I feel like a valued member of a winning team doing meaningful work in an environment of trust? And it is only when we look at all that we have in front of us that we can truly embrace what diversity, inclusion, and belonging really means. I think that the time for talking about it is over. It requires action. Here's a little video for some inspiration on this idea.
Each day we have a chance to connect with other people. And when we do, we assign an identity to each person we meet. We put people in groups that help us define the world around us, or the world we think is around us. Some groups are helpful to us. Others we think deserve respect. Some we deem average. Some are to be avoided. Some are wise, inexperienced. There are those we idolize and those we ignore. Groups that separate us from them.
Today I'm going to ask you some general questions. They may seem funny, random, serious, or deeply personal. Please be brave. Answer honestly. Who in this room is the life of the party? Who is adopted?
But what happens when we make connections and groups begin to dissolve? There are those who believe in life after death. Those who are immigrants. Those who are gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender. The lonely. Those who love fast food. Those who love science fiction movies. Those who have been bullied. And we who have bullied others. The lucky ones who are madly in love. Those who have lost a child. Those who have overcome addiction. Those who acknowledge the courage of others. Those who have found peace. And others who have saved lives. And then there's everyone who experiences us together. Maybe there's more that connects us than we think. Because in the end, there is only us.
Is it a bad thing that we do that? Here's our reality. Our reality is that we are caught up in the daily whirlwind. And in that daily whirlwind, we have to make a decision in that moment. Our brain is telling us we've got to be quick, we've got to make the most high-valued decision in the moment, it's got to be focused, and it's got to have the highest energy. That's what is coming at us. And then we fall into this trap because we've got information overload, feelings over facts, and this need for speed. And as we do that, we apply our biases. Choose courage. Choose to be curious about the people around you. Be cautious about how we're engaging. Are we damaging people by intentionally or unintentionally projecting our bias to them? Let's be aware of that. Before I close with one final inspirational video, I just want to tell you 3 slides around who FranklinCovey is. Many of you may know FranklinCovey as the 7 Habits people, yeah? Who's familiar with FranklinCovey? Wow, that's quite a few of you. So FranklinCovey is a performance improvement company. The work that we do is around looking at behaviors that changes the way organizations get results. Please visit our stand, have a conversation with the people that are there, and they can tell you about some of the work that we are doing across the globe and locally on unconscious bias. It will be really interesting to get your view as well. So, as I just want to leave you with one last thought. Whenever I listen to Nelson Mandela, regardless, I feel that there's this bumps on my skin that I cannot explain. I get all welled up, and I also cannot explain, but there's just something about his messaging that is so relevant today in where we find ourselves as a nation. All of the stories that has been hitting the media of late. And I think that this idea around unconscious biasness could not have come sooner. I really hope that you enjoy this last closing video clip.
You cannot
change yourself. And one of the most important weapons in changing yourself is to recognize that peace and the people everywhere in the world want peace.
If in these later years of a life lived in pursuit of equality, we can at last look upon our own country as one in which citizens, regardless of race, gender or creed, share equal political rights and opportunities for development, we do so with great gratitude towards the millions upon millions all around the world who materially and morally supported our struggle for freedom and justice.
I was in the company of great men today. Some of them more qualified, more talented than I am. And to sit down with them, to exchange views, was one of the most revealing experiences I had. To sit down with those men and exchange views, it enriched the whole life. It fortified your morality. It gave you courage to do better than the best.
Anybody who changes his principles depending on whom he is dealing, that is not a man who can lead a nation.
You have a limited time to stay on earth. You must try and use that period for the purpose of transforming your country into what you desire it to be. A democratic, non-racial, non-sexist country. Humility is one of the most important qualities which you must have. Because if you are humble, if you make people realize that you are no threat to them, then people will embrace you. They will listen to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marlinie. Just a few questions from the audience and some statements. You can hold the mic in your hand, it's fine. We can just go through some of them. A question from Christopher Sekobela. How do you practice fearless leadership in a family-owned business, a situation where leadership of the organization is based on heredity?
That's a very difficult question, especially to me, because I run a family business. And I think that in the moment, as a family-led business, you have this thinking that you've got shareholder values, you're holding two hats, you've got to run the business, and you've got to make sure that this money is working for you. So being real in the moment around what is the kind of risks you are willing to take. And that's what fearless leadership is about, is knowing the risk and being okay that some risks are necessary for the growth of that business and others you need to be cautious of.
And then this next question then should also make a bit of sense. From Maurice Mangani. Did state capture occur in South Africa because of fearful leadership?
That's a set-up question.
That's why I'm asking it. Well, the audience is asking.
What does the audience think?
There was no fearless.
No?
There was no fearless leadership. That's why state capture occurred.
There was no fearless leadership. That's why state capture occurred. Here we go. Is that okay? Yeah? Okay, agreed. What's your experience helping women navigate leadership roles? This is from Zandile Kubeka.
So Zandile, wherever you are, I'm finding it more and more difficult to understand why we're separating women in leadership and leadership. Leadership is leadership. Take the baton and be brave. When you hold that title, I'm a woman in leadership, it automatically puts you on the back foot, because then in yourself, you're giving yourself a bias. You are no different. You can do anything a man can do, as he can do anything you can do. So that whole notion of women in leadership, leadership is leadership. Take the baton.
Question? Tabo Saku is asking you a question. Hi Marlinie, would you agree with me that if we were all fearless leaders, half of the participants in the room would not be in the positions they hold today? Would you agree with me that if we were all fearless leaders, half of the participants in the room would not be in the position they hold today?
I think that you would not be in this room only for one reason, because you would have transcended to a level that even you could not even imagine. You allow certain positions of leadership to keep you here. What is required is a different thinking. Leadership is not a position, it's a choice. It is the things that we do in the moment that moves us and grows us beyond a position. So perhaps half of you would not have been in this room because you would have been somewhere else making big impact.
There we go. And applause, lady. Just two statements from Anonymous. Great way of looking at bias. I always thought it's something we should rather do away with. I'm enlightened. Thanks, Marlinie. Another Anonymous. The presentation is encouraging us to do an introspection and leave behind bad leadership traits and be better and fearless leaders. Thank you guys for engaging. Once again, thank you, Marlinie. Thank you for your patience. Thank you. And then just on behalf of IPM Board and Management, a small gift for you to take home. Thank you very, very much. One more round of applause.